Welcome to our Medill Reports coverage of the 2018 Big Ten Media Days. I'm Nick Mantas.
And I'm Brianna Williams. The Northwestern Wildcats enter the 2018 season riding all kinds of momentum from last year's success.
Our Jake Briegma is at the Big Ten Media Day in downtown Chicago. Jake?
Thanks, Nick. Northwestern head coach Fitzgerald addressed the media today and talked about the level of success his program has had both on the field and in the classroom. Wildcats are in the midst of the winningest stretch in program history over the course of the last 3 years. Coach Fitzgerald also acknowledged that success is in the past.
I tell the guys all the time, there's a reason why the rearview mirror is really small and the windshield's big. If you get focused on looking in the rearview mirror, look out, you're going to hit something right in front of you. And obviously our challenge in front of us is pretty evident with Purdue on the road. So it won't take a whole lot for me to motivate guys.
Nick, the Wildcats returned 15 starters, 7 of which are on offense and 7 on defense from that team that went 10-3 last year, including that victory in the Music City Bowl.
Well, Jake, with all this excitement around Northwestern, what are the realistic expectations for the Cats?
Nick, there's so much trending upward for this program. We know about the improvement in the facilities over the offseason. There's a lot of returning talent, as we mentioned. There's also a really exciting home schedule. Coach Fitzgerald talked about while winning bowl victories have been great, he thinks it's time for this team to start competing for championships.
Thanks, Jake. The Northwestern Wildcats have a tough task on their hands this year, replacing running back Justin Jackson.
Last season, Jackson became the program's all-time leading rusher and ranks 10th in FBS history with 5,440 career rushing yards. How will the Wildcats ever fill his shoes in the backfield? Well, we'll bring in our own Darren Zaslow live from Big Ten Media Days. Darren?
Thanks, Brianna. While the Wildcats may not be able to replace Justin Jackson, Northwestern does have many options that are reliable in its backfield. Head coach Pat Fitzgerald addressed the media today about the running back position and about his expectations for the offense moving forward.
I think we saw a lot of Jeremy Larkin last year. I think his yards per carry might have been better than Saquon's, maybe a little smaller body of work, but just as explosive. I thought the bowl game was a really good showing by him. 2 years ago, John Moten had a great campaign, battled through injuries, and then we've got more guys as we move through camp. I think we've got great competitive depth there, and I expect that room to be very competitive from a standpoint of not only who's going to start, but who's going to play, not only in the backfield, but a lot of different roles for our offense and for our football team, the kicking game.
One of those running backs that Fitzgerald talked about today was Jeremy Larkin, who served as Justin Jackson's backup last year. The sophomore certainly has a lot of talent, and he made his presence known a year ago. He led Northwestern with 6 yards per carry. He also added 5 touchdowns, and recently he was named to the Doak Walker Award watch list, which honors the nation's top running back. Jeremy Larkin, that will certainly be a running back to watch this year for the Wildcats.
Well, it'll definitely be interesting to see Larkin's development from the offseason, along with the rest of the running backs coming up this year. Now, Darren, another interesting position group in Northwestern's offense is the wide receivers. What can Wildcat fans expect from the receivers this year?
Absolutely, Brianna. They can expect a lot of depth. Northwestern had a lot of contributors last year that made their presence known. Bennett Skoranek, Flynn Nagel, Riley Lease were all incredible last year for the Wildcats. I talked to Northwestern quarterback Clayton Thorson today, and he said this group is one of the most talented receiving groups he's ever played with. Their confidence is at an all-time high. It should be a lot of fun to watch them next year.
Well, Darren, you're sure right about that. It should be an exciting season for the Wildcats. But we're looking forward to more of your coverage tomorrow.
Well, we're not done with today's coverage just yet. When we come back, the head coach says he's just lucky to have a job.
But up next, a homecoming for Nebraska's head coach.
Go you Northwestern, go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all to go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
Welcome back. Nebraska football has lost some of its shine in recent years, winning just 10 games in a season just once since joining the Big Ten in 2011. Scott Frost was brought in this offseason to change all of that and return the program to the national contender it was when Frost played quarterback for the Cornhuskers back in the 1990s.
Our Connor Yan is at Big Ten Media Days. And Connor, what can you tell us about Frost's confidence heading into his first season as head coach in Lincoln?
Well, Scott Frost appeared very comfortable and excited to get going today. His main goal is to reestablish that Cornhusker work ethic from those teams in the 90s when he played there. And he feels that he's got his team right on track to do that.
The parents all remember Nebraska as Nebraska. A lot of the kids don't remember that. It's our job to change that. It's our job to make sure that the new generation remembers Nebraska for what it is and what it should be. And we're in the process of making sure that the kids that we're going to recruit going forward see Nebraska as one of the top programs in the country.
Frost obviously has experience leading a turnaround after inheriting a winless UCF team 2 seasons ago and turning them into an undefeated team last year. He sees some of the same methods working at Nebraska as they did at UCF.
Well, Connor, you do mention his incredible run at UCF. What was it that he did there that made that team so special in such a short time? And what makes you think that he's actually going to be able to translate that to the Big Ten here in Nebraska?
So he talked about when he came to UCF, his goal was to blend Husker power with speed, and he was able to do that, and you saw the result. They went undefeated last year and had a co-national championship. And so he's just bringing back what Nebraska used to be. And that's all he's doing. He's not doing anything different. He's just kind of reestablishing the norm at Nebraska. And so he thinks that he doesn't have to change anything from what he's done at Oregon or UCF. He thinks that same mold will work at Nebraska.
Well, thanks, Connor. It's no secret that Rutgers has struggled entering the Big Ten. But in his third year, head coach Chris Ash is focused on getting the program back on track.
Our Jonathan Skinner is reporting live from Big Ten Media Day. Jonathan, what are your expectations for the Scarlet Knights this year?
Well, my expectations are very great for them, and right now it seems like Chris Ash is was non-committal rather when it came to Rutgers possibly getting into a bowl game. He wasn't really willing to say that they would be on the level of Michigan or Ohio State anytime soon. So for right now, it looks like they have a long road to Big Ten relevance.
You know, for us, and it's this way for the majority of the teams in our league. You know, Bill mentioned 4 teams in our league that are traditional powers, but most of the other guys are developers. And I look at what Kirk's done at Iowa. What's he done? He's not gone out and recruited the top players. He's gone out and developed them. And that's really where we're at. We need to develop, and that takes some time.
Now, despite having a losing record last season, Coach Ash isn't really under any pressure right now to get the thing turned around this season. That's despite them having some really good senior leadership on the defensive side of the ball, including linebacker Deontay Thomas, as well as cornerback Lasan Austin, who was coming back from an ACL tear last season.
Now, speaking of that senior leadership, Jonathan, Rutgers returns a lot of starters from last year and had several players who have been there from the beginning of Ash's tenure. Have the veteran leaders seen the team change over time? Now, how does that kind of gauge for their upcoming success in this next season?
Well, the players did say that they've seen the program change a lot since Coach Ash has been there. And they've echoed some of his statements, saying that the main goal for the season isn't really a bowl game per se. It's mainly to make sure that they're improving game to game. And since Coach Ash has been there, you've seen a lot of improvements with the facilities as well as the team leadership, and the maturity of the players growing exponentially. So it's going to be a long path right now for Rutgers to get to that Big Ten relevant stage, but it's one that's going to take a little bit of patience.
Well, Jonathan, thank you as always for your coverage.
Coming up after the break, Michigan's head coach Jim Harbaugh takes the stand. We all know he's known for his witty responses, and let me be the first to tell you, today was no different.
Why hang around waiting for opportunity to knock when instead you can track opportunity down and knock on its door? You might ask, what's the best way to identify where opportunity lives? Here's a hint. Its door is colored purple. Northwestern University. Opportunity awaits your knock.
Welcome back. Jim Harbaugh returns for his 4th season as a head coach of Michigan football this fall, and many were left disappointed by his team's 8-5 record last year.
Our Lauren Rosen has more on rising expectations for the Wolverines. Lauren, how is Coach Harbaugh handling the pressure?
And that's right, Brianna. Jim Harbaugh knows that anytime you play in the big house, you're going to be confronted with tremendous pressure. But Harbaugh says he's combating that pressure with gratitude.
I've also talked to some other players or coaches that don't have a season to gear up for this year. It's sad, but I also feel very good that I have a season to gear up for. So, chopping at the bit, ready to go.
And guys, that's been Harbaugh's message all day long. Gratitude and improvement. He says he can't wait to get back on the field with his team, and he's hoping that they can just improve by 1% each day.
Well, Lauren, I'm sure it was a long day in downtown Chicago today, but did anything else stand out to you from Harbaugh?
Well, Brianna, there's been a lot of talk today about changes made this offseason. When Harbaugh was asked about how legalized sports gambling will affect his team, he said that he is going to urge his players to stay as far away from gambling and gamblers as possible. In fact, he said he's not going to just urge his players to walk away from gambling, but to run.
Well, it certainly will be interesting to watch these changes implemented throughout the league.
Well, that does it for today's Medill Reports coverage of the 2018 Big Ten Media Days. I'm Nick Mantas.
And I'm Brianna Williams. Thanks for watching. We'll have more coverage tomorrow for day 2 of Big Ten Media Days.